The Spirit Keep or the Spirit Potion Keep is one of the early dungeons you will find yourself wanting to farm in order to be ascending your newly acquired Spirit Affinity champions, and it's one of the decently hard ones because, well, there's a lot of self-healing going on in that boss, right? So today we're going to be visiting what this boss is actually doing and how can you beat it extremely easily, pointing you at the right tools to make sure you're actually having a field day farming the potions from this dungeon in particular. So let's get into it. Now, it's no question you will always want yourself to be farming the highest level possible on any of the potion keeps. Whenever you get to the stage 20, you will no longer be able to receive the lesser quality or the minimum quality potions, right? You will only be able to get the medium and the higher ones, right? The ones that you really want at the end of the day. If you want to join my team in Raid Shadow Legends, click the link in the description to get a free Narma as well as Anax, Uugo, and Mausoleum Mage as you progress through the game. Here's what you need to do. First of all, log out of Plarium Play on PC and uninstall. Then click the link in the description and register a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial, and then go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get a fresh start in Raid with a free Narma and 3 epic champs. Click on my link right now. So how do you get yourself to this point? Well, you are going to be needing to play perfectly to the strengths of what the dungeon is throwing at you. And this one in particular is a pretty egregious one together with the magic one, blue one. These two dungeons or potion keeps in particular are quite difficult to get done unless you have the right tools, right? So as we are finishing up killing the trash over here, which at the level 20 of the stage 20 of this dungeon is already at level 275, right? So we are talking about very high level monsters which will take forever to die. So what happens with the Spirit Keep, right? So what's really going to be going on here is the massive amount of self-healing that this boss has. As you can see right here, heals this champion by 50% of their max HP at the start of each turn. Now, with most bosses, they are going to be immune to pretty much any form of CC, so no stun, freeze, sleep, revoke, etc, etc. Also immune to HP exchange effects, HP balancing effects, and cooldown increasing effects. You can, in fact, alter the turn meter, which will be a way or one of the ways you can go about really trying to beat this boss easily. What else does she have? She also removes all debuffs that she might have at any given point and placing a block debuffs on herself, right? So you are going to be facing the problem of also having the inability of placing any debuffs which you might find interesting to place onto the boss herself for quite some time, 2 turns that is. And then she finally has an AoE attack which decreases the incoming, or rather damage increases according to this champion's current HP, so the higher HP she is, the more damage she will be doing. Straight up, just a little bit of damage, nothing crazy over there, right? So the key to this boss really is just to remove entirely, if possible, her ability to be healing, right? Besides that, she doesn't really do anything else. It's just damage, and then it's also just blocking debuffs, which in fact will make it harder to get some healing prevention on her. So, as we already have some big damage in our team, we're actually just blazing through it. We don't even have that much turn meter. We have a little bit of turn meter going on here on our Ruella, but she's actually getting the heals off, and I am not trying to prevent that on this team. Now, this is not the best approach, but I'm just brute forcing it, right? Because I'm at the point where I do have enough damage, and I do not really care much about her self-healing. However, there is many easier ways of actually getting this done without needing a team which will have this much damage. Now let's real quick take a look at her abilities, and once again it's important to emphasize the immunity she does have, right? So she cannot be stunned, frozen, slept, she cannot be provoked, although that doesn't really matter, but most importantly she cannot have her passive skill blocked. So we cannot right away just go for somebody who's going to be able to block the passive skills. That would be the most ideal scenario, but that would also mean that you will be blocking the immunity. So usually with most bosses you will not be able to be blocking any of her active or passive skills, right? So also no fear, true fear, petrification, berserk, or enfeeble, meaning that you can also not apply the extra damage taken on this boss. So what are the options we have left? So we can do multiple things here. First of all, the brute force approach. We can decrease defense, which would just make the boss take more damage, and try to overpower her healing. We can also decrease her speed as a form of turn meter control, together with things like an armiger, which will be able to decrease the turn meter, so she's able, or rather she's unable to take more turns, that therefore meaning she's going to be healing less. That would be an approach we can also go for. So we already have either brute force in her, or using a little bit of speed control or turn meter control, or a combination of both, which is what I'm doing, brute force and turn meter control. We cannot freeze her, and she's not really doing too much damage, so we don't really care much about those options. There is no sleeping, and there's also no enfeeble, which we can apply. We can apply the weaken though, which is going to be increasing the damage she takes, and that is also what I am doing with the Ruella. I am doing a combination of decreased defense and the weaken, meaning she's going to be getting nuked by basically all that I have in the team. Now there is a much better approach over here, which is going to be the following. And that's plain and simply going to be heal reduction. There is ways of reducing the amount of healing that the boss can do all the way up to 100%, right? So if you are able to apply one of these to the boss, she's no longer going to be able to use that passive. She will be using it, but it will have no effect. Now, she still does have the other attack, which she uses to cleanse the debuff off of her, right? So she can actually take away this debuff if you put it on her through any means. And for 2 turns, you will also need to either be sitting through the block debuffs, meaning that she's going to be able to heal still, or you are going to be also needing to cleanse those buffs, right? So we will have multiple options about how to work around that entire thing, but those really, like, the main way of getting through this boss really is going to be to block that healing. Now right away we have pretty much the perfect option for basically all we need about this boss, and that is going to be Leminisi, which we got for free basically. And if you do look at her ratings, right, she is going to be at a decent rating of 4 on the Spirit Keep, right? Why is that? Well, because she comes with a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns, meaning that, well, you will be able to just put that in there, and then, well, there we go. You are just able to make the boss never heal herself. Now, Leminisi is even better because, remember, if the boss uses her A2, or actually I think it says the A2. Anyway, she can cleanse off any debuffs that you might put on her, right? So these 100% heal reduction, she could just take it off and then apply to herself that block debuffs buff on herself, right? So the boss can totally ignore whatever you are doing with the A3, which by the way has a pretty decently long cooldown, right? So what else do we have in the kit for Leminisi? We also have a 100% chance of removing 2 random buffs from the target, meaning that you are just going to be able to take away that ignore, or rather block debuffs, which the boss puts on herself, and that is it. You no longer have to wait for 2 more turns until you can get another heal reduction running onto her, right? So Leminisi right away already serves a decent purpose, both for the Spirit Keep as well as for the Magic Cube, which we'll be getting eventually in another video, which, as you can see, of course, she does also have a decent rating on. There is even better options, of course, as you are going to be accumulating more and more champions, which will be allowing you to do this even better and much more deterministically. For example, Morrigan over here has a passive which is going to be applying at the start of each turn a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns on the enemy with the lowest HP, meaning that if that is the boss, the only one standing, she's always going to be getting this back to back to back every single turn. And then moreover, this debuff cannot be removed, transferred, spread, or have its duration increased or decreased by enemies or allies, meaning that it's a protected debuff which cannot be removed by the boss. And even if she did, well, you can just reapply it again, right? But this being a protected debuff, she cannot take it off of herself. I do believe that's how it works. Let's actually put it to the test real quick. So here we are in the boss now with Morrigan in the team, which by the way also does have some turn meter control, which serves all the purposes we need over here. And as you can see, she's already starting to spread out those heal reductions all the way up to 100%, right? So you can see there is one on this guy here who just died, and then there is also one on the boss, which has the yellow square, what you call it, like the contour, what's around it. That means that it's a protected buff, so rather a debuff onto her, right? So whenever she is going to be taking her A2, which should be done eventually once she does take a turn, that debuff should not be able to be removed, right? So we'll be able to real quick just see if that is actually the case, right? Since we have so much turn meter control, the boss is barely able to even take a turn, and there we go. She actually couldn't heal because the debuff was not removed, and she did get the debuff protection, which means that if the Morgan was going to be trying to refresh the duration on the debuff, she would not be able to do so long as that buff is over there, and now she could, because we do have also Alice here, which is cleansing those stacks of the debuff protection buff she gets, right? So as you can see, there is much better options for this entire thing to be done, but just with Leminisi alone, you can at least already do the basics, which will get you all the way up to a point where you can constantly farm these boss very easily. And that is it, guys. If you did not think you could use Leminisi, well, there you go. If you are a new player and you just got her, there's definitely some good uses for her, especially just farming some entry-level content. Now going deeper into the later stages of the game, well, her usefulness is a lot more in the questions. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about it. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye. See ya!